Well, today we start a new Sunday talk series based on the book by Reverend Eric Butterworth titled In the Flow of Life. So if you ever read any Butterworth, you know we're going deep. So let's begin at the beginning, going with the flow. Has anyone ever heard that term before? I'm in the flow, I'm just going with the flow. Yeah. Well, where did that phrase come? And no, it wasn't Reverend Eric Butterworth. His book wasn't printed until 1994. I thought maybe it started with the hippies in the 60s. But it goes back much farther. Well, certainly Jesus alluded to it, but we need to go back even further than that. We go back to the legendary Chinese philosopher and author born in 571 BC, Lao Tzu. He taught that the human spirit has its source in the divine fountain, which must be permitted to flow freely through each person. He believed that anyone who flows as life flows has solved the difficulties of human existence and needs no other power. Well, yeah, and I decided to look up in the dictionary and says, well, it's something like that as a phrase in the dictionary, and it is. Here's what it says. It says that going with the flow is to do what other people are doing or to agree with other people because it's the easiest thing to do. It can also imply taking a conservative or less radical approach. That doesn't sound like going with the flow at all as we're talking about it, as certainly as Eric Butterworth talked about it. And yet I hear lots of people using this phrase. So perhaps they mean I'm chilling, right? I'm chilling and don't want to do anything. Or I have decision fatigue and I'm done for now. Anybody ever have decision fatigue? Or they use it as a placeholder for leaving things up to chance or fate. People could also use this phrase to mean they need time to process their thoughts and emotions. And I suppose others could use it as a comfortable cushion to delay responsibility. It allows them to enjoy life without fully committing or accepting accountability. Well, none of those ideas is what Reverend Eric Butterworth was going for. All of those descriptions are about looking at the flow of life from the outside in. And unfortunately, when we only look at our life with our physical eyes, seeing life as all out here, we might only be in the flow of our physical life, which we know is constantly changing. Anybody disagree with that? No, it's constantly changing. We might even be trying to take what we see and hear out here to inform our inner spiritual life. And that's all backwards. And it's bound to fail. The flow of life has its origins within, because we're really talking about the spiritual flow of life. And nothing can take you out of this flow of life. However, you can take yourself out of the awareness of the flow of life, and then ending up feeling a bit adrift in choppy waters and no idea how to navigate forward. When we are in the flow of life, the fullness of the life, of our life, the peace and joy, not only comes to us, but through us. And even more so, as us. This realization can take hold as we take hold of our oneness with the source of all. Now, I had the ushers give everybody a piece of paper. And if you don't have that piece of paper, that's okay. There's nothing magical about that piece of paper, okay? There are other papers that probably are in the pew in that little, what do we call that thing? That little holder right in front of you. And so I'm going to be asking you to write something down because it's pretty heady, and I want you to ponder this week. I love to ponder. Anybody like to ponder? Yeah, pondering is fun. But this sentence I'm going to ask you to write down begins with the word that you use for God. Now, it might be God, it might be spirit, it might be divinity, it might be source, substance, whatever word you use. Write that down because you're going to put a whole lot of words after it. Okay? If anybody needs a pen or anything, Bob is going around. You can just raise your hand and he'll bring one to you. And you can write on any piece of paper you find, okay, if you don't have that particular one. So I'm going to use the word God, right? So here's the sentence, and I'll say it several times. God is a sphere, S-P-H-E-R-E. God is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Now I'm going to read it again. Read it with a different word. Spirit is a sphere. We all know what a sphere is, kind of like a circle, right? Spirit is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. That's pretty meaty to ponder on this week. I'm going to say it again. Divinity is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Now, this is Reverend Butterworth's non-dualistic God idea that hopefully keeps us from making God in our image. Now, does anyone need me to read it again? I'm happy to read it again. Everybody got it? Okay. We'll make sure that it gets in the newsletter also. Okay. So if this, now you've got it written down. Now we're going to play with it. Okay. If this sphere has a center that is everywhere, then where is it? It must be where I am. It must be where you are. This is true omnipresence. Everywhere, equally present. Right? Remember, as a kid, we might have learned there is no spot where God is not. God is equally, everywhere equally present. So we are each the center of God or source or spirit, and then every point in this sphere is a bubbling forth of the infinite flow of life. That means you are a point in the sphere that is the infinite flow of life. Now you know why I want you to ponder that. So this one that we call God is not a deity sitting in the clouds, sometimes answering us and other times not listening, but instead, the one is truly the one. This one is the whole of things, the allness of which and in which I and you are an eachness. We are an eachness in the allness. That's another wonderful thing to write down. We are an eachness in the allness. So no matter what we may think we are, each of us is the flowing forth of the one. And yet each of us is a unique and different type of person. Different skin tones, eye and hair coloring, different ways of thinking and talking, different heights and different ways of walking. And still, each one of us is an eachness in the allness of the one. And my eachness, your eachness, can never be separated from the allness of God or the one. Because we are the self-livingness of the one. We are the self-livingness of the one. We are that eachness in the allness, bubbling forth the flow of life. Being in the flow of life is truly becoming aware of our oneness and living life from the inside out. We tend to think of life as a sum total of what has happened to us and what we have gotten from life. Things like wisdom or light or love, understanding, experiences, as well as all the stuff we've gotten, all the accumulations. With this understanding, we view the physical world as a place to get stuff. And that stuff could be money or power or love, knowledge, peace, health. And even if we do get those things, we still feel kind of hungry, not settled, and often overwhelmed by decision fatigue. Life is not flowing, but rather life feels unstable and can even feel threatening. Another way to look at this flowing of life is to consider Jesus' reply. The kingdom of God is within you. I love that saying and even consider it a promise. And I am often perplexed about how to live it. Can I believe and have faith that there is a longing within each one of us that desires to be aligned with the universe, with life flowing to and through us, perfecting all that has been created? Even me, even you. Can I truly go with the flow of this inner flow of life? Eric Butterworth wrote, "The kingdom within is the realm of all potentiality, all substance, all life, all love, all peace." Remember that Jesus asked us, "Do not be anxious about your life, but seek first the kingdom within, and all this shall be yours." And yet, from the time we were born and schooled, we have been instructed about this physical world and promised that if we just follow the rules, our life will be good. And with a bit of luck, maybe even great. Some of us were instructed in religion, and again promised that if we worship God and follow the rules, our life will be good, and maybe, if God's listening, our life might be great. In a way, we have been held hostage by this thinking and have even changed the meaning of the phrase, "in the flow of life." We change it into a phrase about doing what other people are doing, or to agree with other people because it's the easiest thing to do. Now, that is not about being in the flow of life or being one with the flow of life. In fact, life itself has always been. It didn't begin when you were born. Life comes from the one source of all, and we are one with that source. We had life before we came into this physical body, And we will continue to have life when we leave this planetary existence. You know, when I first felt the desire for this God oneness connection, I barely understood what it meant and what it could mean in my spiritual journey as well as my physical life. And after 30 years, you would think that there would be no more to know or experience. And yet, in some ways, I still feel at the novice level. The allness of God is to be found within, and that allness has no limits, no boundaries. There's always more. This past week, my body was reacting to a sinus infection that included infections in both eyes. But despite these bodily ills, and I can be quite the drama queen when I'm not feeling well, I could still acknowledge my oneness with the source of all healing and life. And Eric Butterworth says that we are never further away from this healing flow than the consent to let it unfold. And what is so remarkable about that statement is the lack of certain words, the lack of words like begging, pleading, asking, praying, or even affirming. We can just consent. We can just consent. How wonderful is that? In the need of any type of healing, we need simply consent to the flow of life and feel ourselves effortlessly swimming. Now you may say, okay, but what about all my affirmations that I have taped up all over my house? Right? We all have these affirmations we put up. Well, remember, an affirmation of truth is not intended to make something true. If you believe you are one with the divine and you are already whole and healthy, what needs to become true? The affirmation is more like a reminder post-it. Oh, all right, now I remember. I'm in the flow of life and am healthy and whole. This is our starting point for swimming in the flow of life. So take some time each day to ponder what I asked you to write down. God, or whatever name you have, is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. So we are each the center of God, and that spirit is the allness. We are an eachness in the allness. No matter what we may think we are, each of us is the flowing forth of the one. Now, Eric Butterworth also gives us a good meditation, and which I'm going to just read here. And I love how Eric Butterworth goes back to these really historical philosophers. It is a slightly paraphrased statement of Plotinus, who was a Greek philosopher in the years 200 AD. We're also included in Friday's newsletter. But just for now, just take a breath and relax and just allow the words to be the words of your heart. Let your mind and heart release all that disturbs you. Let your body be still, and all the feelings of your body and all that surrounds it. Let the earth and sea and air be still, and heaven itself. And then think of spirit as streaming, rushing, pouring, shining into you, through you, and out from you in all directions, while you sit quietly. Now, next Sunday, we'll just take a breath there. Yeah. So next Sunday, we will go deeper in this concept of going with the flow and how to be in the flow. That may be very difficult at times to just be in that flow. So our very own Lisa McDaniels is going to be helping us do just that with her singing bowls and steel-tongue drums. And we'll also explore other options like breathing techniques and even body movements and a lot more. So this week, simply be aware, ponder, and know yourself. In closing, we'll go back to the philosopher Lao Tzu. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Namaste.